Well, as we've been telling you, home values are going up, but if you do sell, well, you're likely going to be priced out of the market. That's because rental prices are also high.
Throughout Palm Beach County, the price of rent has soared anywhere from 15 to 40%, while some elected state officials are fighting to put a cap on rent prices. Others argue rent control is not needed.
That's right. Our Stephanie Balderrama is taking those questions to our elected leaders. And Steph, it looks like the working class really is suffering here.
That's right, Jim and Liz. In order to afford a one-bedroom apartment here in Palm Beach County, you would need to make roughly $47,200 a year, which is roughly $23 an hour. Now, according to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition in Palm Beach County, the average renter makes roughly $19.50 an hour. And now keep in mind, many in the working class make far less than $19.50 an hour.
We're not struggling as much as we could be, but it's tight.
In 2020, Teresa Boyce moved into her current apartment complex in West Palm Beach. It was only supposed to be for a little while until the family found a home to buy. In 2021, she says her rent went up by $10, so they decided to stay another year since they were no closer to finding a home. But 3 years into the pandemic, home values have soared, and Boyce can't find a house in her budget. And now the family's rent is an additional $600 a month, leaving them to cut costs in their monthly budget just to get by.
There should be some legislation even like where they can cap a percentage. We understand rate increases and market values.
The reality is that the state of Florida has preempted rent stabilization programs.
State Representative Anna Eskamani is a renter in Florida. She's personally felt the pressure of rising rent costs in the state. Eskamani says there's two factors at play here: not enough supply for the demand.
Building new apartments takes years to do. And so I am very worried that in that time frame, we're going to see an increase in homelessness, and we're going to see folks, part of our essential workforce, leave the state because they can't afford to be here anymore.
And there's also no legislation to fight rising rent prices. For the last 3 years, she's introduced a bill to rewrite Florida law in hopes of putting power in the hands of local governments to control rent prices. Now, according to Eskamani, currently, local governments have to meet all state requirements to declare a housing state of emergency, which is not easy. Then stabilizing rent prices must go to a public vote, which must be repeated yearly.
What our bill does is it just repeals that third requirement. We want to let you have the flexibility to do that beyond a year.
But Eskamani says the legislation dies before it ever makes it before lawmakers. Phones at State Representative Mike Caruso's office have been ringing off the hook, constituents saying they can't afford to live in Palm Beach County.
Are you part of any legislation or hoping to introduce any legislation that would put a cap on the rising rent prices?
I don't think that's the answer.
Caruso says as part of the state budget, lawmakers want to allocate nearly $350 million towards affordable housing and rental assistance. He believes those are the first steps towards rectifying the crisis, but the budget won't be approved until later this year, which is too late for people who need help now, like Boyce.
Sadly, Stephanie, it's not going to come in time to help that problem.
They have rules and regulations in place for price gouging during hurricanes. Why is there not some sort of percentage cap?
The strain also putting pressure on organizations like the Lord's Place. CEO Diana Stanley says they've seen a 59% increase in inquiries for housing. Nearly 3,500 of those individuals and families are people who've never been faced with homelessness before.
The Lord's Place has always stayed very much apolitical in the fact that we believe that, we represent everybody. But in the case of the rent control, we have to do something. We have to know that this could be one option, but it cannot be the only option.
Representatives to find out what they're doing to help the working class of Palm Beach County. Representative Caruso is the only one we heard back from, but we do plan to continue our coverage of this crisis and remain committed to getting answers. Liz?